feels like you almost can't bet against them in any game they play. Like every night that they go out, they have a chance to beat any team, and it doesn't matter who that team is. They are, in my mind, legitimate contenders. I mean, I think that, you look at this team right now, fifth in the NBA in record, seventh in offense, fourth in defense. And I just, and on top of that, they're number one in the league in opponent's points per game. This team is just, they're scary good. And, I want to talk to you about what was your initial reaction when the Cavs gave up what they did and brought in Donovan Mitchell?
That's what it was going to take, in order to get a guy like Donovan Mitchell. I wasn't surprised. I knew when, and it's funny because they floated it out like the Cavs were interested, but it didn't seem like it really had any traction to it. And when I first heard that, I said, okay, well, you're definitely using Colin in a sign and trade. You automatically are. And then I figured some type of combination of draft picks, first round picks, and whatever else could make the money work. So when I saw marketing, the draft picks and Colin, I said it makes sense to me because Donovan Mitchell is a star. He's a superstar to be, honest with you. And those guys, it takes a lot of ammunition to get him. So I wasn't surprised at all. It was definitely the right move because they got to keep DG, Evan, and JA, and Kevin Love, who I thought, might have to be involved if they didn't use Colin. So they were able to keep the core of the team and add a superstar. So that was my reaction, was like, hey, Cavs did what they had to do to get it done.
Evan, are you impressed with how well Garland and Mitchell and the team have really bonded together and played so well together this quickly?
I love the way that they bonded together. You could tell that they really enjoy playing with each other and that they're all a very tight-knit group. I think they're still learning to play together, though. I feel like there's times when they kind of go, okay, it's my turn. Okay, it's your turn. And usually that's when you see the offense get stagnant a little bit. So they're still learning, but they're so talented that many nights, especially against weaker teams, they'll still be able to win because they're just two great offensive players. And then you got the big guys protecting the rim. And that's going to get you a lot of wins against the lesser teams in the NBA. But I think they're still learning. I think they will ultimately figure it out before the end of the season. So I've been impressed. It's kind of going how I expected it to.
Yeah, and one thing that not a lot of people are talking about is what kind of dynamic shift is there going to be when Ricky Rubio gets healthy and he's back on that floor too? Because we saw the impact that he made, especially with Darius Garland last year. And, it seemed like Garland not only was scoring more, but he was seeing the floor better. And I don't know if that was, Rubio was helping him, maybe have better court vision and, see the open man better. But, jumping 2.5 assists from year to year, that's going to happen. But when you have one of the better point guards that's been in the league for a little bit, helping you out, I think that was probably a big thing. So when he comes back, you're not going to have these kind of, I don't want to say crazy rotations, but you can have Garland and Mitchell out at the same time while Rubio's in, and right now we're also dealing with a lot of injuries too.
Yeah,
I do want to put you on a spot a little right here, Emmett.
Okay, let's do it.
Me and Brandon have decided, and we've talked about this. I don't know, since last year. We think Jared Allen. I think Jared Allen is the heart and soul of this team right now. I think that when he is not in that starting rotation or just in the game in general, there is definitely there's something that is missing on defense. And Brad Doherty explained it really well. I want to say maybe it was last week. I can't remember what game it was, but basically just how the way that Jared Allen moves, he takes up so much space that if someone's driving and they're looking to pass, they got to think twice about it because he's so good at moving his hips. The amount of room that he takes up, he can just swallow you whole. I think that we think that Jared Allen is the second best center in the East behind Joel Embiid. I think he's better than Bam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Bam's up there. I think Robert Williams eventually might get there from the Celtics. There's some really good centers, but I think that as a player, as a center impacting a team, and just knowing he's going to get you those he's going to get you the high percentage field goals every single night. He's going to get you 10, 12, 15 rebounds. He's going to be in there banging. Do you think that he is the second best center in the East?
I mean, I think it's a conversation, to be had, kind of subjective. I think that can change on different nights. But he is in the conversation. I think he'll be an all-star again this year. The thing about JA is you kind of see nights where Evan will have a great night scoring and rebound, and then maybe dip a little. And, it's kind of inconsistent up and down. Jared, you're getting 10 and 15 every night, maybe 12 and 15, something like that. That's happening every night that he's on the floor. You're getting great defensive play. So I agree. I mean, outside of Donovan and Darius, obviously, I mean, JA is the third most important player on this team in a big way. I think they, if it was the playoffs and you don't have JA there, I don't see you, advancing or going very far because you don't have to run plays for him. He can score, rebound, and do all that just in the flow of the game. So I think he's one of the best centers in the NBA, no doubt about it. And I expect him to be an all-star again this year.
Evan, we talk a lot about the stars on this team. We've already mentioned Garland. We've mentioned Mitchell. We've mentioned Jared Allen. We have mentioned Evan Mobley. But what is arguably more important outside of those stars is the bench unit. And the bench at times this season has struggled a little bit. Maybe a lot of that has to do with injuries. They've had multiple guys out. Karis LeVert missed 4 or 5 games. Kevin Love's been out. Lamar Stevens has been out. Joey alluded to this a little bit. But I think that when Ricky Rubio gets back, you're going to see the bench flourish, which will also help the starting unit. Because I feel like at times, we've watched Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell this year both put on, and Karis LeVert even once against Boston, put up 40-point performances. But a lot of that was necessary because they were not getting a lot of scoring input from guys off the bench. So my question to you is, how much do you think Rubio will help settle this bench down? Do you think that he will, set up more opportunities for Love and a Dean Wade to give you more of that scoring punch, so then you don't have to rely on Garland and Mitchell to put up 30 to 35 every night?
I think he'll help a lot. In talking with Brian Windhurst, he keeps alluding to wait till Rubio comes back, and then I think, everyone's role will be a lot more defined. You talk about LeVert. LeVert's been inconsistent this year, but he's also been asked to do a lot of different things. He's been asked to be, a facilitator and defender, and then you have DG go out and it's like, okay, well, we need your scoring. Then DG comes back and it's like, okay, now we don't really need you to score, and then it's okay, now you're to the bench after an injury. So I understand why he's been inconsistent because kind of what they've asked him to do has been inconsistent. But when Rubio gets back, and I assume that Darius or Donovan will always be on the floor, but even if they're not, and you have Rubio with LeVert as well as Love and Jetty, and all of a sudden you're like, man, that's a pretty solid second unit. That's actually sounds like it used to be our starting unit, if you really think about at least that caliber.
I mean, me and Joey have spent the offseason before the season started. We were shouting from the rooftops, essentially. The Cavs are one of the deepest teams in the entire NBA. I mean, you just said it. Their old bench unit could be a starting lineup. There are really good players on this team that some nights, I mean, we were all begging, for Lamar Stevens to get some minutes before, we got some minutes, and then he's obviously been out for a couple of games. But like he's a guy, and Dean Wade as well. Like they're undrafted kids, but they're not slouches. They can play very good defense and contribute offensively. And when those guys don't get much playing time, it just, to me, it shows the depth of this Cavs team.
Yeah, and I think that Wade ultimately will be your starting three when everything settles down, and everything settles down. So they're in a good place. And that's why it's a good time to be a Cavs fan, because you know that this team is one of the better teams in the East, and they will contend. I don't believe this is the year that they win a championship. I think that's a whole lot to ask. This group, since they just got put together. And if anybody listens to me and is familiar with my work, I always say you have to get there and lose to know what it takes to get there and win.
Great point.
And I think that's what, this team has to do. They made the play in, and I think that was great experience. But as a team, and some guys have playoff experience, but as a team, they don't have experience in a series where you're facing the same team every night, and that team knows everything you're trying to do. There are no secrets. They know your best, you know theirs. And I think that it'll be interesting to see what they'll be able to do when put in that situation.
I told Brandon that I wasn't going to talk about it, but we're going to talk about it just very quickly.
He always does this to me. Don't worry.
I do it all the time. But it's not just you, Brandon. I would be remiss if I didn't include our boy Clarence, one of the co-hosts of Brown and Orange Weekly, because Clarence loves himself the small forward position. He likes the big, tall. I think he really wanted to try and go after Kevin Durant in the offseason. That was, he wanted to draft, the best small forward when they came around. And do you think that right now this team, as constructed, like you said, you have to get there and lose before you can get there and win. But do you think that maybe there's a tweak out or a player out there that they could maybe realistically get maybe at the small forward position that could help them there, like a Cam Reddish maybe, or, someone of that caliber?
I mean, you've heard Jay Crowder's name kicked around a whole lot. I'm not the biggest Crowder fan in the world, but I think it's a little early to really put names, to that small forward position. This is the thing. Come to trade deadline, Cavaliers have some assets. I don't want to give up Kevin Love, but he's an expiring contract and he makes a lot of money, and I think that'll be attractive to teams that thought they were going to be contenders, but ultimately won't be. LeVert, I like LeVert, but he is someone that, he's not a core piece. So I think there are, there are assets that they have that they will be able to move and bring in somebody. But you know what? If Dean Wade grabs a hold, of that position, or if anybody grabs a hold of it and produces consistently, then maybe you just say, hey, we're going to run it how we got it. So I think it's real early to kind of worry about adding anybody or anything, especially putting a name to it. So, we'll see. But once we get to about, the first of the year, we're almost at Christmas, but once we get to around that time, we have a little bit of a better understanding. And I think teams will know which way they're going, because I don't think Utah expected to be where they're at, right now. So there are different teams that are still trying to kind of figure out, are we all in or all out right now?
Exactly. I agree with you 100%. Clarence, there's your answer, buddy. We love you, though.
And by the way, I wouldn't touch Kevin Durant with a 10-foot pole. I would never trade for Kevin Durant. You could trade for him, and 2 weeks later, he'll say he wants to get out of here, and that ruins the entire chemistry of your team. So I wouldn't touch Kevin. Kevin's a great player, no doubt, but a little too much of a headache for my life.
Just broke Clarence's heart. Brandon, we have 3 games coming up this week.
We do.
Why don't you this is the time of the show, Emmett, where we games coming up, make our quick predictions. And you ready?
So, Evan, as Joey said earlier, last week I almost got it perfect. We previewed 5 games. I thought the Cavs were going to go 2-3. They ended up going 3-2. Great victory last night over the Philadelphia 76ers. But now they come into a game Friday night, tomorrow night. They are at home. They're taking on the Orlando Magic. And we saw them play the Magic early this season, if I recall. I think it was the 3rd or 4th game of the season. Obviously, Orlando has a very unconventional lineup. They can play a lot of bigs, but they're very young. They're not expected to win a lot of games this year, but I think there's some matchups they do match up well with the Cavs against. Saying that, though, I think the Cavs, we've seen the Cavs play very well at home this year, differently than what they've done on the road, and I think the Cavs should take care of business at home.
I agree with that. I don't think Orlando's a threat against the Cavaliers at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. They have a true home court advantage. And they're just better. Orlando has some good young players, and I expect them to make some exciting plays during the game, but I don't see this as a close one at all.
I agree with that as well. Although the Magic do have one of my favorite players outside of Cleveland, which is Bol.
My favorite player outside of Cleveland. We all love Bol. Yeah. Joey knows that I may only be 5'2", but I love me some big men.
Yeah. We were trying to figure out a good rotation where we could get 5 7-footers last year, and we almost had it at the end of the season. But yeah, I'm going to say Cavs by double digits against the Magic.
All right.
Yeah, I agree.
So we're all on the same page there. And then on Sunday, they're going to Mbeka, the home, the place that Joey knows. My hatred for the Knicks run high because the Knicks haven't been good in 20 years. Cavs go to Madison Square Garden to take on the New York Knicks.
This game intrigues me because the Knicks have actually had some really good games this year. No one really expected them to be good. Jalen Brunson has actually played, I would say, almost to that contract. He's really, showing out. Julius Randle has come back to where he was a few years ago for the most part. Mitchell Robinson's been playing well. RJ Barrett's had some good games. They've had some players off the bench stepping up. They're not as bad as I thought they would be. With that said, I still say the Cavs by 13.
Okay. I think it'll be a little closer than that, but I do think the Cavaliers will take it. New York, again, not a great team, but they're much better than Orlando, so I do see this one being a tight one, but I think the Cavaliers will pull it out maybe 5 to 7 points.
I think Donovan Mitchell is going to have himself a game Sunday night. I think Donovan Mitchell is going to show the New York Knicks, hey, you know what? You could have had me. Remember, they were down to the final 2. It sounded like with the Cavaliers. It even sounded like, according to Utah, the Knicks gave them the better offer. I'm not sure about that. But I think Donovan Mitchell, I think he will go crazy. I'm predicting a big game from him, and I think the Cavs make a statement. I'm going to say double-digit Cavs victory Sunday night in the back of Madison Square Garden.
Every star wants to go to Madison Square Garden and have that game, have the game of their life. It might be Mitchell, maybe it's going to be Garland, but it's going to be someone from Cleveland. I can tell you that.
And then lastly, we have a game that I have personally circled on the calendar since the schedulers came out. That is because it is the Cavs' first primetime TNT actual national TV game. It takes place Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time from Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, when our old friend, the King, the 2016 NBA Finals MVP, LeBron James, and his terrible Los Angeles Lakers come to town to get absolutely beat down by the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah, I think the Cavs win this one, handily. I do agree with that, but it's always great when LeBron comes back. It's a lot different, now than it was back when he would return with the Heat. There was so much hate, but there's so much love now, and I think LeBron really respects the Cavaliers and what they've done since he's left. Because look, we didn't know what was going to happen. We thought, they got a bunch of young guys and draft picks. They're going to be bad for a while. who knows how long it would take to get back to where they once were. But Kobe Altman's done a great job. He's put together a great team, and I'll take the Cavs against the Lakers.
You gotta love LeBron James. What he did for the city, coming back, saying he wanted to win a championship, then actually going out and doing it. I mean, the 52-year drought, you can't take that away from him. He's native of Ohio hero. Love LeBron James. Will always have love for LeBron James. But this Cavs team, and me and Brandon have said this since Donovan Mitchell came, actually probably since almost last year when Darius Garland became an all-star, which was this is no longer LeBron's Cavs. This is the new era. This is the DG era. This is the Mitchell era. We're out of that shadow. Love LeBron. Always will love LeBron. But Cavs absolutely going to decimate the Lakers. And these 3 games, 3-0.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I mean, just for the record, you talked about the Cavs turnaround so quickly. Last year, as Joey will tease me about forever, I picked the Cavs to probably win. What I say, Joey, 15 games. I mean,
You said I think like 20 or 22 games.
Yeah,
I said they were going to go 500.
I thought the Cavs were one piece away. I did not see. I thought they needed one more superstar like player. I did not see. Garland growing up as fast as he did in front of our eyes. Jared Allen playing as well. I thought Evan Mobley, obviously, I think we all thought was a phenomenal pick, but I thought they needed one more piece. And then boom, they had such a great season last year. And now I believe that they did the right thing. We talked about this earlier, getting that superstar in Donovan Mitchell to really complete with this team. And Emmett, I've been telling Joey all year, I'm 24 years old. And the oldest Cavalier is only 2 years older than me in the starting lineup. That's Donovan Mitchell.
And I know how that feels. There was a time where I walked in the Cavaliers locker room and I looked at all the players and I was like, man, I'm older than everybody.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, I've never, I'd never looked at myself as like being older than these guys, but I was like, I'm a lot older, than these dudes. So I totally get it.
But that is, that's just part of well, for me and you, Emma, that's part of getting older, but we're also wiser,
Absolutely.
But like I explained to Brandon, he's like if we were like Cavs players, he's kind of like the young gun, cocky a little bit, does what he wants. And I'm more like Kevin Love, handsome, older, a little bit wiser.
I think I called you Joey an old man like 2 weeks. I forgot the exact conversation, but it was something, and I said something like, "Oh, Kevin Love's the same age as Joey or something," and Joey was like, "Wait, is that a shot?" I'm like, "No,
I'm still older than I'm older than Kevin Love, but Kevin Love, you threw that out there, but I kind of hope they keep Kevin Love for this season, just because I think that he's someone who really helps his team mesh real well. And when he, when he's healthy and he comes off that bench and he doesn't have a microfracture in his thumb, he can shoot the lights out, and he really provides some energy. So I mean, if they're in it, then if they're in it, I hope they hold on to him. Like you said, it's way too early in the season to really talk about that. But that was for Clarence.
Veteran leadership, as you know, and I told Joey that's why I love the addition this offseason of bringing back Rubio, bringing in a guy like a Robin Lopez, a guy that's been there in so many playoff situations. Like, yes, these Cavs are young, they are fun, they're exciting, but it's going to be those guys like Kevin Love that has an NBA championship that you need, because even though they may not produce that well in the regular season, sometimes on occasion, usually it is, I feel like, at least those old aging veterans that when you need to make a play in the postseason, in the game, in the moment, they've been there and done that.
I want to say one more thing before we go here, and it's just really just a question for Emmett, which is how much fun is it? You had the Guardians, who, phenomenal. I'm not gonna talk about the Browns right now. I can't. I can't do it right now.
Good move.
Yeah. And then you got the Cavs who are living up to the billing. How much fun is it to be a Cleveland fan right now with these teams so young and yet just exceeding expectations? And I mean, you get to talk about it every day, on ESPN 850 in Cleveland. I mean, just how much fun is it to be a Cleveland fan right now?
It's a lot of fun seeing what the Guardians did and kind of what the Cavaliers are doing now and just riding the wave, and just kind of enjoying it because Cleveland fans deserve that. The Browns, which we won't get into, have put this fan base through enough. I mean, it's so much. And we deserve a team that we can get behind. We deserve to have two teams in this city that really play in our image. Nobody really gave the Guardians any real type of credit. A lot of people in our own city was like, oh, the Dolans don't spend any money. I don't know anybody on the team. They're going to be terrible. We had a guy call and guarantee they'd lose 100 games at the start of the season, and for them to go, yeah,
it could have been my brother. It could have been my brother.
But for them to go, okay, watch this. And, for them to grind through that, even though many days they played in front of a ballpark that was basically empty, it didn't matter to them. And that's what Cleveland is all about, overcoming things. And then you have this Cavaliers team, that went through some tough times and had some young, talent that really put the work in and were good people, which is very important. And then you add a star to it, a star that's happy to be here, a star that's not from Cleveland that grew up a Cavs fan. That's amazing, in itself. So it's fun. We deserve this, as a city. And what I will tell everybody is just enjoy it. It's fine to, debate what moves should be made and what shouldn't be. But we have a team that we can be negative towards, and they deserve the negativity many times. So let's save that for them and for the other two teams in the in this city. Let's just get behind them and enjoy the ride.
Emmett, truer words were never spoken. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Absolute blast.
It was by far one of my not one of my, but my favorite show that we have done so far. Brandon, we have another episode in the books.
We
Emmett,
do.
Please, you are more than welcome anytime. Catch Emmett on ESPN Radio 850 here in Cleveland, because he is just honestly just one of the best journalists, sports radio personalities out there in the nation, but especially in Cleveland. And Brandon, I think there's really only one thing left to do to close out the show, my man.
And that's to let 'em know.